On today's show, was trading for Pascal Siakam the right all-in move for the Indiana Pacers? How has he looked in 2 games so far with the Pacers? What is the fit like playing alongside Tyrese Haliburton? And could there be another move on the horizon with Buddy Hield? No stranger to trade rumors. Is Buddy Hield going to stay a member of the Indiana Pacers, or will he be on the way out? It's all coming up right here at Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. At the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy that, in fact, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn also knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Thankfully, with LinkedIn, the process is intuitive, quick, and easy. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Pacers, Tony East. You can track down wherever you listen to your podcast, and on YouTube, just search Locked On Pacers. And Tony, the first big blockbuster trade of this NBA season. Well, maybe second. I think it's the biggest blockbuster trade so
James
far.
Harden has a word for you, Jackson.
Okay, you know what? That was a foregone. That was like basically an off-season move that got shunted
does
into
feel like it.
The NBA season. All right, and I think Siakam's a bit of a bigger name than OG Anunoby. So here we are. Pascal Siakam, now a member of the Indiana Pacers. Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, Kira Lewis Jr., and 3 future firsts going back to Toronto. But that's not what we want to focus on here. We want to focus on Pascal Siakam. Let's start here. Was this the right all-in move for this Pacers team? Yes or no, and why, Tony?
Ooh. Well, if it's an all-in move, it was probably not the right one. I would say it's not an all-in move.
Ooh, why?
They
Why
still have
would you
Jarris
say
Walker.
it's not
They
an
still have
all-in
Ben
move?
Mathurin. They still have Andrew Nembhard. They still have Aaron Nesmith. They still have Jalen Smith, Obi Toppin, Isaiah Jackson, and we'll have 3 tradable firsts by the 2025 draft. I don't know if it's an all-in move, but I do think it's a great move because of the 2 Raptors forwards, I have long considered him the better fit with the Pacers than OG. I think OG's a better fit with a lot of teams. I think Pascal's a better fit with the Pacers because they need a second guy on offense so badly. Haliburton is amazing all the time, but in their wins, someone else has to step up when they win, and that's fine, but it's not always the same guy. Sometimes it's Miles Turner, sometimes it's Ben Mathurin, sometimes it's insert player X. Now they know who fiddle number 2 is. It's Pascal Siakam. Him and Tyrese Haliburton were amazing together last Friday, 26 minutes together in Portland, plus 27 the Pacers were in that stretch. That duo is exactly what they need offensively, and now they have size on defense. Everybody else's defensive position makes a lot more sense. No more Andrew Nembhard guarding Lauri Markkanen because that's literally the best option they have. Everything just falls into place for the Pacers. He's a wonderful fit. Of course, they'll have to deal with the contractual and age concerns going forward, but as a player on paper, he is exactly what they need, and he's been pretty good these first 2 games.
Not only just on paper, but you've gotten a 2-game look at him now. Now, no Tyrese Haliburton in the second matchup, and that Suns game we'll leave that one. But at least in the at least in the first first outing, when you got a chance to see those 2 being able to kind of play off of one another, how did things look with them sharing the basketball court together?
Yeah, Siakam's first basket was pretty funny. He caught it, and he tried to dribble towards Haliburton to pitch it to Haliburton. Haliburton's like, dude, no. Go around the screen, score. And he did. He had a mid-range shot dribbling around Miles Turner. Those 2 are going to be like a great duo just as a safety valve for each other, right? The thing that they haven't ever been able to do this year, Miles Turner can do it against some players, but Siakam, it's like if you put a 6'4" shorter guy on him, they just are like, yeah, that's it. That's our basket right there. So that alone makes things easier. It's harder to switch and mismatch hunt against the Pacers now. And you already saw that help in that Portland game I was talking about. When Haliburton's out there, he can set up anybody. So Miles Turner punished mismatches. He had 29 points. He had open threes all night. Buddy Hield made 6 threes. He had a lot easier time having space because, guys, they had to send 2 to Siakam, right? So not only is this Haliburton-Siakam connection really obvious, like Haliburton can set up anybody, Siakam makes guys' lives easier because he requires attention, but he pairs well with the other vets who make the Pacers good too. So if their bench was better, they would have won that game. They didn't. But I think his natural pairing with their entire starting 5 has already shown to make a lot of sense. And then he played the 5 in Phoenix sometimes. That also looked nice. They're still learning, but it's been a nice start for Siakam in Indiana.
How much of a process is this really going to be when you introduce a guy like Siakam, who is, really effective when he has the ball in his hands, when he's doing things offensively, versus maybe more of a plug and play guy that can just kind of come in, do his role? It's a lot harder, I think, at times when you have these mid-season trades for a guy like a Pascal Siakam that has to be, at his best. He is going to be really involved offensively. So the Pacers kind of have to learn on the fly here over the rest of this season to make the most of this new acquisition.
Yeah, there's 2 interesting things to talk about here. One, about since you cover a team, when guys get traded, they all say the same thing. The hardest thing is a lot of NBA teams are pretty similar in what they run or how they do it. The terminology is way different, right? So you sit there and process the words. You're like, oh yeah, that's this. And that's a split second, but it matters a lot for timing and all that kind of stuff. So of course that's going to take a second. The thing about Siakam is he can attack mismatches and get junk buckets really well. I think his number production will be fine right away. It already has been pretty good. But I think the thing that will take an adjustment, one is the Pacers call their offense random action offense. That's hard. You have to get reps in it to understand it. But 2, it's everybody else figuring out wait, when he's doing this, what do I do? Or how do I react to what he does? Because he can score in these weird post positions that not a lot of forwards can, or he can create his own shot in ways that not a lot of 6'9" guys can. So I think it'll obviously take time for him to figure out what their read and react is for, who he's supposed to play off of, where his shots are going to be, like any player who's traded and learning new words, or at least learning how the words are used on a different team. But I think the other players reacting to him will actually take a little longer just because that's a big change. That's a lot of shots going to one player that previously were not for the Pacers. Bruce Brown doesn't shoot that much. Jordan Ward didn't play. So I think that'll actually, the bigger adjustment is how everybody else bounces off of him going forward.
How do you expect that, as far as the shot diet, right, and where those shots are going to come from? Who do you expect to take maybe more of a backseat for this Pacers team going forward? Where do those shots essentially come from to fill up Siakam's kind of shot diet here?
Yeah, Bruce Brown wasn't even taking 10 a game. Siakam took, I think, 15 in Portland and 14 tonight. So you got to 6-5 shots you got to translate. And that's right now with him not, fully understanding. I presume it'll be closer to 7. It's hard to say because the other thing that's happened too is Buddy Hield has started, and it used to be Andrew Nembhard at the 2. So I wondered if Nembhard could be the guy who they kind of naturally align for defense. Some of his shots go away. I would say maybe the answer is Haliburton because he's a natural distributor, but he's their best scorer and offensive player as a self-creator. So naturally with the starters, it has to be one of Aaron Nesmith or Miles Turner, and probably Aaron Nesmith in that case, which is fascinating because he's been one of the best 3-point shooters in the league this year. I think really what it's going to be, though, is they're going to stagger the stars. That makes the most sense. Siakam can give them a higher offensive floor when Haliburton's not in the game. So I think it's just going to be 2 from this bench player, 2 from that bench guy who are now on the floor with Siakam instead of not. And they just watch him be better than them and score. And I think that's fine.
They just watch him cook. Just let him do his thing.
But I think that'll take a big adjustment too. Their depth has been such a strength this season, most bench points in the league, highest bench field goal percentage in the league. If he subtracts from that in any way, that does require an adjustment. So I think it's the right move to give him those shots, obviously. But what it means for the Pacers right away as they kind of adjust all that and figure it out, get the dominoes in effect, will be really interesting.
You just mentioned his name there a moment ago, Buddy Hield, and this is a guy who is no stranger to trade rumors, to being involved in trades up and down.
Oh, boy.
7 different ways to Sunday, right? What is your gut telling you the outcome is going to be with Buddy Hield as we approach this NBA trade deadline? Is he going to still be a Pacer? If he's not a Pacer, what's the destination that makes the most sense? What's an ideal trade package for him? Because now you've got this new look Pacers team with Pascal Siakam, in the mix. Does keeping Buddy Hield actually make more sense now going forward for this team?
It does. Yeah. Well, it's kind of the thing about the trade deadline is it's when the Pacers lose the ability to control the situation, right? Obviously Buddy Hield's good and is not pouting and is playing well for them this year. Well-ish. So the thing about that is I think the fact that they're better than everyone thought, I had them at 18 wins by now. They're at 24, firmly in the top 8 in the East, right? If they're going to make the postseason, the value has to be enough in return for them to feel good about trading a contributing veteran away instead of having the value that he provides on the court for those 2 months and however many games they play in the postseason. If the playoffs were like a maybe, or the plan was like very obviously in play, it'd be easier. He's on an expiring contract. You have to think about his future, right? But I think if you're good and you feel like maybe you can get a top 6 seed, you have to be blown over now. His value is actually higher to them now than it was before the season, even though he's playing worse, which is a really interesting situation. It's just how it is for them. So, the same obvious teams, like if you have a superstar creator on your roster, Buddy Hield's an awesome fit, right? He gets a ton of attention. He makes open threes. He's gone from like a 5th percentile defender to like 15th this year, which he's not a good defender, but he's better.
It's a monumental leap for Buddy Hield.
So any team with, playing next to Luka, he would look great. Playing next to LeBron, playing next to any of those guys, he would look awesome. A natural fit in those situations. And who knows what he wants contractually or situationally, right? But I think he's actually more valuable to the Pacers now because of his fit with Siakam. So I think it would have to be a late first in matching salary to me. If you're not getting a first or a young player, there's just no point of doing it if you're the Pacers. So I get that it would be a rental and no team might offer that. So I think my gut is that he ends up sticking through the deadline, but if he gets traded, it makes a lot of sense anyway because of his contract status.
How will Pascal Siakam look as he continues to adjust to becoming a member of the Indiana Pacers and playing alongside Tyrese Haliburton? Could we still see a Buddy Hield move somewhere down the pipeline? You'll have us covered for all that and so much more over at Locked On Pacers. Tony, thanks for stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Jackson, thanks for having me.